first up we have Abigail Swan Jeffrain, and she is the first one. So Abigail, if you'll go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, and thank you for organizing this. Hi, I'm Abigail Jeffrain, and I attend UT Austin and have a bachelor's degree in linguistics and government and a master's in linguistics. And I'm currently a parent liaison for the Jolie Johnson Library, Girl Scout leader to a fabulous group of kids, Girl Scout liaison to the Mud Scout Room, where we've started a lending library for the Girl Scout troops that use that facility. I volunteer for the Voter Information Hotline, serving all of Texas, and I'm a mother of 2 amazing elementary school kids. I grew up in libraries, and I remember with pride walking up to the desk at my Arlington, Texas library to get my very own little yellow library card. And since then, I've volunteered and worked in many libraries throughout my life, starting with my mother's library after she became an elementary school librarian. And then in college, I worked at the UT PCL library at the Reserves and Courtesy Borrower Desk, and in grad school at Linguistics Library at UT. And I've worked at the front desk, done cataloging, tech share, repairs. I've been a volunteer here at the Wells Branch Community Library and also at the Jolie Johnson Library since it opened. My husband Thierry and I have lived in Austin for over 20 years and in Wells Branch for 13 years. And we fell in love with this neighborhood, which it just stood out for its beautiful library and parks and incredible community. And I've been bringing my own children and nieces and nephews to the Wells Branch Community Library since they were born, and both of my brother's families love this neighborhood as well and followed me here. And the library is an important part of my family, and it's the heart of our neighborhood. And I'd like to put my library experience to good use and help support this important resource and make sure the library continues to support all of the people in our community.
Thank you, Abigail. All right, so next up we have Renee Vera.
Hello. First off, I just want to say it's a privilege to be here, so thank you so much for having me. About myself, let me start from the beginning. I was born a long time ago. I won't say how long, but that's the very beginning, I guess. But I was born in Texas. My mother and father were both Marines, and so I was born on a military base, so we moved around a bit. But after my dad retired, we moved back to Texas. So I went to the University of Texas, and I have a degree in history and English. After that, I went to teach overseas in China. I taught American and British literature. And then when I returned, I went back for school at St. Edward's here in Austin as well. And I got my MBA in information systems. We've lived here, we've lived in Wells Branch since 2005. Me and my late wife and my 2 children. We've always been big proponents of the Wells Branch Community Library. I feel that it's the heart and soul of our community, and especially with the way things are going now, libraries I think are more important than ever. And again, for me, a library has always been a sanctuary of sorts. Again, I've always loved spending time there, and my family in particular has utilized this library a great deal. I think that my experience, my job, that's important too. I'm a recruiter. So I've worked in tech recruiting for various organizations for about the last 15 years. So I've seen technology, I've seen corporate culture, I've seen a lot of things change in the last 15 years. But for me, that just again reinforces that I think especially now more than ever, we need to support our communities. Unfortunately, the world right now does have a lot of issues. And for me, I think one of the best ways to help is locally and looking at what I can do. I want to help as much as I can with our community library and keep the high level of I guess, support and service they give us. So that's all I have for right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Renee. Appreciate that. All right, and then we have Jennifer Christmas.
Hello, thank you so much. My name is Jennifer Christmas. I am originally from the Dallas, Texas area. I received my Bachelor's of Business from St. Mary's University in San Antonio, Texas. So I am a very proud Texan. My family is a young family. We have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. After I received my bachelor's, I went to work for Ford Motor Company for 12 years in marketing and business development. And part of working for Ford Motor Company is that you move a lot. So my husband and I moved all along the Eastern Seaboard for those, well, for me, 12 years. And then when I was married with my husband for those 3 years. And with the arrival of our children, we decided to come back to Texas to be closer to my family. So we've been in Wells Branch since 2016. And we fell in love with the neighborhood. And we rented here in Wells Branch first by luck, because one of my requirements was that we needed to be close to a library and a park. And we found a rental home here, and then we loved it. And we waited for a year to be able to purchase a home in Wells Branch, because the housing market is very competitive in Wells Branch. So you have to be very patient if you want to live here. And we learned that it took us over a year to get a home. And so we've been in this home for about 2 years, and both my husband and I, we volunteer. I volunteer coaching soccer. I also I sit on the Round Rock Women's Soccer League's board as a volunteer. My husband is a watchdog at Wells Branch Elementary, and I also volunteer with the PTA. We absolutely love it here, and we want to support the library. It's our top reason to be in the neighborhood. My house is the quietest after we get new books from the library, because both of my kids will run to a different space with their chosen books and flip through them. My son is learning to read in Spanish. My 4-year-old is not reading, but they like to look at the book, which is reading for her. And so the library has become pretty much the heart of our family, because we love to read books in this house. And so I wanted to give back my time with the library. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jennifer. All right, thanks to all the candidates. It's nice to meet each of you. All right, so we'll move on to our questions. And I have gone ahead and turned the chat from one where you can reply to everybody to just one where the questions will only go to me. So you are welcome to start putting questions in the chat at any time, and we'll get to those at the end. But before that, we did prepare a couple of questions for the candidates ahead of time. So the first question we're going to ask, and again, the candidates will have 2 minutes to respond, is, many of you are first-time candidates. What prompted you to step up and run for this public office? And this time we'd like to hear from Renee Vera first, if that's all right.
Oh, more than all right. Thank you so much. I would say first and foremost, I wanted to give back to the community. And again, I think this was something that was close, near and dear to my heart. Previously, just kind of as a background, a little on me, the last 13 years, I was taking care of my terminally ill wife and lost her last year. And so now I have the ability to offer support in other ways now. After that happened, then COVID happened. So that kind of blocked a lot of avenues. And then the library was talking about the election. And I thought, well, this is a great way for me to give back to the community. In addition to wanting to give support, I think it's a great way for me to honor my wife's memory, as she used to love going to the library just to enjoy the environment and look at magazines and just catch her breath and get a change of scenery. And again, in addition, for me, like I said, libraries have always been somewhere special. Again, not to put too fine a point on it, almost sacred. But I think that, libraries obviously need to evolve. And I wanted to run because, again, I think that our current board has been doing an amazing job. And I want to help continue the amazing, role that they've been doing. And I figured that this was a good way I could directly offer support to my community. It's something that I'm very familiar with, and it's something I have a true passion for. So those are the big pillars of why I would like to be a part of this group. Thank you.
All right, you have 30 more seconds. Are you?
Oh, well,
that's fine. If you're done, it's fine. I just wanted to let you know you can.
Yeah, I think that's I don't want to add more stuff in just to add it. So I'll cede 15 seconds back to everybody to their life. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Again, and same question, and I'll repeat it. So many of you are first-time candidates. What prompted you to step up and run for this public office? And Jennifer Christmas, if we could hear from you on this.
Sure. Okay, so the short answer is Lindsay Martinez, who is actually a current board member, said that I had to. She felt that I could bring something to the table, and the long answer is, after mulling it over and listening to Lindsay and why she wanted me to raise my hand, I did believe that I could offer value through a different perspective. One of the things that I love about Wells Branch is that the beauty lies in the fact that it's very diverse and very diverse in all kinds of different ways. And then there's really strong friendships in the neighborhood. And in order to serve our community better, we should tap into that diversity, and that diversity spans from race to the age of the people that live in our neighborhood, the age of the family and the children. You know, we have neighbors who have children who are in college, and we have neighbors who are bringing newborns home, and they're very young families. We have very various backgrounds of our neighbors, and in order to really serve our community, it's nice to tap into that diversity. And I thought that, hey, I can bring some of that to the table. I'm somebody with a different perspective, and I've done some things, and I've seen some things, and I think, you know, that knowledge is valuable so that we can help our community members. And then the real reason, the real core that really spoke to my heart was working with Wells Branch Elementary and realizing how many students are struggling with poverty in our own neighborhood, and the only way to lift them was through literacy, and literacy is very important. And so I thought, if I could get involved in the library and help students, I'm elevating not only my community, but I'm elevating the future across the country, and that's really important to me.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, and then last but not least, I'll repeat the question again, just because I did for the other candidates. Many of you are first-time candidates. What prompted you to step up and run for this public office? So Abigail Jeffrain.
All right. Also short answer, because Lindsay asked me to, current board member Lindsay Martinez, but also because aside from my library experience, I have a background in government, and I have organized meetings and events for everything from statewide organizations to my daughter's Girl Scout troop. And I've worked as a messenger at the Capitol and been a Girl Scout delegate and helped the PTA get started at JLJ. And I'm seeing it every step in my life that what any organization takes to function is for people to actually step up and get the job done. And while I've always strived to be an active community volunteer, I really have a special place in my heart for the library. And so this position particularly stood out to me as something that I'd like to step up and help see succeed. And with my background working in the community and volunteering in all different sorts of libraries, I've had the privilege to see what libraries can mean to a broad section of the population. And I can understand what resources are involved to get those programs out to people, as well as being able to know what the community is looking for in the library, and trying to make sure that we cater to everybody and not just fall into the traditional roles of story time and just fitting certain populations, which I feel like this library has done a very good job of already, and I'd like to see that continue and help make that happen. Make sure that we're reaching out to everybody in the community. And also, I like Robert's Rules of Order, so.
That's a good answer. Robert's Rules of Orders is close to my heart as well. All right, well, thank you. Thank you all three. So we'll move on to our second question, which is, what is the biggest challenge you anticipate facing as a trustee and if elected, and how do you propose to address it? And so this time our first respondent, we'd like to ask Jennifer Christmas to respond first on this one.
I had a feeling I'd be first, and I'm going to openly admit this was the hardest question for me. It's been the hardest question for me since March, because I'm a type A planner, and how can you plan in such an unknown environment right now? We've been in this unknown waters. My husband and I have been joking that the Frozen 2 Into the Unknown has been the theme song since March. So after really thinking hard, the biggest struggle is trying to address the following: bringing more community members into the fold. There, like Abby said, there's community members that may need a different type of resource or program that we can provide at the library. Getting information and resources or programs to those who are homebound or those with accessibility concerns while we're closed and separated right now. And then supporting the local school-aged kids while they don't have access to the normal school services. And for me, the only way to address that is to listen and ask a lot of questions. I think there's going to be a lot of investigation for the library board. The first is listening to the current staff and the current board, because they have done a fantastic job addressing, supporting a community in unprecedented times. And we could not have asked for more as a community. None of us have ever experienced this before. And then the second part of that is to go and investigate and ask questions, a lot of questions from our community members. And that includes parents, that includes teachers, that includes the youth, that includes the PTA, the administrators at our local schools. Where does the library fit in the puzzle to serve the community, all while remaining flexible like the character Gumby? And so to me, those are the struggles.
All right. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, and then we'll move to Abigail Jeffrain. And again, the question is, what is the biggest challenge you anticipate facing as a trustee if elected? And how do you propose to address it?
All right, I think the biggest challenge is definitely going to be meeting the challenges of COVID-19, just the current dilemma that we're all in, helping to make sure that everyone in the community has access to the resources that the library can provide. And since March, I've been meeting with and innovating new ways of serving my Girl Scout family, as well as working with the voter assistance hotline, serving all of the Texans, but especially in that group, the elderly. And I'd like to put that experience to work, offering some of the ideas and solutions that we've found. And the staff at the library has done an incredible job already supporting our neighborhood while keeping our community safe. But as the pandemic drags on, it's going to be important to continue to find new ways to reach out to parts of the community who may be hardest hit and may be not getting those resources. So through my work with those organizations, I've been able to learn about a lot of difficulties that are being faced, and I've been trying to educate myself about other communities that may also be needing services. And I think that I've been in awe of the ideas that have been shared and the creative solutions that people are coming up with and developing daily to address issues and find better ways to serve communities. I believe that through collaboration and research, we're going to be able to find solutions to whatever we face and continue to find wonderful ways for our neighbors to connect and learn and grow. And so.
All right. Thank you, Abigail. And then next up, we have Renee Vera, and I'll repeat the question for you, Renee. What is the biggest challenge you anticipate facing as a trustee if elected, and how do you propose to address it?
Well, I think similar to what others have said, you know, one of the biggest challenges will be to maintain the extremely high level of service that we've had at the Wells Branch Community Library. I think that's a very high mark for us to aim for. And it's kind of related to a second, I think, secondary issue, which again, has kind of been alluded to, but I think increasing our outreach and bringing in other diverse groups of people into the fold. I think for a lot of people, they have kind of an outdated view of libraries as just a receptacle for books, and that's it. And I think that a lot of people aren't aware of all the services that are offered, all the other things that libraries do. And I think that's something that I would like to expand into other demographics that aren't utilizing those services that could utilize them. Again, as a recruiter for a lot of tech companies, I've led many diversity pushes and been very successful with them. And again, diversity can, again, meaning the whole spectrum, whether it's age groups or different socioeconomic backgrounds or what have you. I have a very deep background in that. And I think I can bring that experience to the table with a lot of success as well. In addition, I want to change how people that don't use the library look at it. So they'll look at it as something other than just, let me go get a book. Some people are book lovers like myself, and some people aren't. And that's okay. Because again, libraries have to evolve, and we have to evolve with the times. And again, these are unprecedented realities we're dealing with. So I think those are going to be the biggest challenges, but the way to work around them, I think, again, is first listen to the community. I would definitely take my lead from those that have more experience on the board, and obviously those that are on the front lines that are working in our community library as well too. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Renee. Thanks again to all of our trustees for answering our first couple questions. So in case anybody has joined us a little bit later, we're opening up to question and answer. We would like you to type your questions into the chat. If you have a question you'd like to ask anonymously, then just include the word anonymous in your question, and we will make sure that happens for you. So we have kind of a group of questions here in the chat that are just sort of basic information about this position. So I'm going to see if I can address some of those, and I'll just ask our candidates to chime in, keep me on the up and up here, make sure I'm giving accurate information. So we have a question from Susan, who wants to know how many trustees are we voting in? My understanding is that we have 3 positions. There's not places or seats in this election. It's just 3 open positions, and that there are 4 trustees vying for those 3 positions. So when you see it on your ballot, it will be phrased as, please select up to 3 candidates for this seat. Anything to add on that, candidates? Did I get that all right?
That's correct.
All right, good. And then just generally, Denise Pierce wants to know what kinds of things do the trustees do? So maybe I'll just open it up to the 3 of you, and you can just kind of chime in with what you think to the answer to that question. So what kinds of things do the library trustees do?
Sure. From the meetings that I've sat in on and been a part of, obviously a big piece of it is looking at budget. I think that's one of the big pieces that they're looking at on allocating resources, talking about implementing new programs. A big piece, of course, is working with the library director hand in hand on what their needs are. And then talking about future needs of the organization, of the community, and then putting propositions up if they need to put things into study, if they have to have research done. And then, of course, obviously, these are open meetings, and having records and such as well of each meeting that they conduct too. I'm sure I'm missing a lot. I'm just
Abigail or Jennifer, do you have anything to add, Jennifer?
Yes, so I was going to say that the library staff, specifically the director, they take a lot of the lead when it comes to planning and programming and requesting budget. So the board oversees a lot of the budget movement, how much money is coming in and where it's allocated, but the director really is the lead on making changes. So for example, as COVID changed a lot of the programming that was planned for the year. The library director will do research on how to move to a different area of programs, and then the board approves her recommendation. So really the library director does a lot of legwork. It's amazing. One of the things that the board was going to be tasked to do was, I can't remember the dollar amount, but there was expansion to the library that was going to be planned. It was, I think, a 5-year plan, and the board over the next 2 years was going to be making plans to use those funds for the building. But with COVID, that obviously is now on the back burner. So the board will be determining, given the time and what changes and how fast it changes, what do you do with those funds that were for the expansion, and how do you expand? So that was a really big thing that would have been tasked to the board, was the planned expansion that now has kind of been pushed back. But if things improve, that could be on the table very quickly again. So I don't think, for me, I don't think a lot of people knew that there was a large expansion planned for the library, which is fantastic. That it's amazing. But unfortunately, it's on the back burner right now.
Thank you. And so just to clarify, so the director position, that's a hired position funded through our tax dollars, correct? All right, just making sure everyone kind of knows that distinction. And did you have anything to add to answering that question, Abby?
It seemed to be very well covered, but I also just it's more oversight and support and less direct day-to-day. So
Thank you. Thanks to all of you. A couple more just sort of nuts and bolts questions, and I'm just going to run through them kind of quickly. We talked already about how many positions. These are questions from Rhonda Jordan. Thank you, Rhonda. How many positions on the library board? And I believe, are there 5? Okay. And how many years are the candidates elected? How many years will you serve? What's the term?
2-year terms.
I'm sorry, one more time?
It's for 2 years.
2-year terms. Wonderful. Are there term limits for the position on the board? This is a question I've not considered before. I know we've had a director or one of the board members that's been on there for a long time.
I haven't heard of any term limits at this point, but I'm not well versed in that.
All right, so we're thinking no on that one.
No.
Okay, and then I'm just, here we go, scrolling through here. All right, and I just want to go back for just a moment. All right, and this is a question from Diane Kohler. This is a policy and advocacy position as well as overseeing a large tax base. What qualifications do you have? So specific to working with a lot of money. And we can start with Jennifer. Go ahead.
Okay. So working for Ford Motor Company, one of the things that I was responsible for was watching the budget for individual dealerships. So I started as a marketing and sales zone manager. I have covered New York, New Jersey, Florida, and Michigan. And you have to watch 2 budgets for working for Ford Motor Company. It's every time you go in with your vehicle to get warranty work done and it's covered under your warranty, the manufacturer pays that amount. And so my job for Ford Motor Company was to ensure that we were within budget and we were making repairs on vehicles in the most effective manner. But then you're also having to watch out for the dealership. So you're assigned about 12 dealerships. Some of these dealerships could sell 500 vehicles in a month. That's a significant amount of money coming in. We're talking millions and millions of dollars. And I would review the finances monthly with the dealer principals, and we would make sure that we did not have any losses, that we were in line with the market growth, or even the falling markets if that dealership was performing to level. So not only watching a budget for Ford Motor Company, but then also watching the budget and the profits for 12 dealerships at any given time. And again, they are selling 500 vehicles at a time, and you're also doing sales and service. But for me, the most important experience that I have is that one of my jobs for Ford Motor Company was I was the Operation Goodwill manager for South Florida. And this was a not-for-profit arm for Ford Motor Company. I was given a specific budget, and I would review grants that were submitted by local nonprofits in South Florida, Feeding America, teachers on behalf of their elementary schools, child abuse programs, and I would review their finances before I would select which organizations would receive funds from our amount of money that we had in South Florida. And having to review the finances and ensure that this charity is using their money in a way that we find ethical and putting the most dollars to the actual work and not into someone's pocket is really important whenever you're serving a not-for-profit. So I've worked on the profit side, and then I've also worked on budgets and grants on the not-for-profit side as well.
Thank you, Jennifer. Who'd like to go next? All right.
Yeah, I've had a lot of experience working with large budgets, especially I would say the biggest one I've ever had to work with when I was a consultant in the past for IBM. We rolled out HR and recruiting program in 88 countries simultaneously. So I was given control of 5 countries and dealing with several thousand employees at that time. People that we were bringing on, dealing with different tax laws, different employment laws, of course, dealing with different expenses. So very complicated, but I think that's where my MBA really came in handy. The education I had there helped me with that experience. In addition to running several different branches when I've been at different organizations as well too, doing quarterly budgets, projections, looking at headcount, looking at investing in growth, whether that's in training for employees or for equipment, or again, adding new facilities, moving facilities. Those are things that I've definitely dealt with before. And again, all these things are highly collaborative. You know, even though you are responsible for these things, you definitely count on your team. And so that's, I think, where the strength of this, you know, group comes in. They work very well together, and obviously working hand in hand with the library director to make sure that priorities are being met, that projections are coming in accurately, that we're making proper plans and not just pie in the sky. I want this, but what can we do with what we have available? And then, of course, contingency plans for unexpected events. The only thing you can expect is the unexpected, right? And just like this year has totally been unexpected, every month is something wackier and wackier. And that's all we can do is try to prepare. And I think that's something that in the tech world, we've had a lot of in the last 15 years. So I think those things make me very qualified to deal with these types of projects and budgets. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Renee. And go ahead, Abby.
My experience is in organizing large events, and I worked for the Texas Democratic Party and organized their statewide meetings and helped organize conventions and worked with our delegation to national convention. So trying to get people from all over the state on limited budget and finding generally the cheapest, while not being chintzy, sort of service that you could provide to have large-scale meetings of a statewide organization, providing them with all of the small details that this group needs a certain room, certain technology, and this group needs this, but all of it had to be within budget and preferably under budget at all times. And just managing regular things that came up, because this would be it was a quarterly meeting besides the conventions and other events. So I have experience with trying to organize a lot of different interests coming in from a lot of different areas, trying to all work within the same frame. So that's where I think I have some budget experience for dealing with that.
Thanks to all three of you. So I think we have time for one more question, and we just have one left, so we are doing well. And so our next question is, and this is an anonymous question, it's regarding the transparency of the community library board meetings. Oh, and this is a pretty easy nuts and bolts one too. Where are the meeting minutes posted, and where can the board bylaws be found? And then the next part is, how is the library currently funded? So I'll go ahead and turn it over to each of you to give answers to that. So let's go ahead and start with Abigail this time.
Well, the meeting minutes and bylaws are all easily available on the website. They are accessible. There's a tab up at the top of their website. It's the Wells Branch Library Trustees Board, and you can click in there and go through, and I've been reading past minutes from meetings. They go back, decades. So there's all of the board information up there for whoever needs to peruse it.
Right, and anything to add, Renee, to that?
No, that's absolutely what I was going to say. So yeah, perfectly correct.
All right, and I'm trying to find the link. Sorry if I'm distracted. I'm trying to find the link to put in the chat for you guys. So I'll keep working on that. But let's move to the other parts of that question. How is the library currently funded? My understanding is that it's funded from our property tax dollars. Is there, no?
It's sales tax, a 0.5% sales tax in the community. So I think the zip code 7828. So it's like 0.5% sales tax on all the businesses that are here in our community. But that also includes, when we think businesses, we think of like the businesses that we might physically walk into. But my understanding is even businesses that are here located with their warehouses, their sales are also taxed. So Breton and Grand Avenue, those businesses right there, those are part of our community, and they provide funds into our library.
All right, and thank you, Abby. She's gotten me the link for the meeting minutes. So those are now in the chat for everybody. We've got just 3 minutes left. I had one little question that snuck in under the radar. So let's see. It's from Susan again. Are 3 trustees whose terms are not up for re-election? So are there trustees on the board now who are not rerunning, and who are those trustees?
I know 2 of them are rerunning, but I can't recall their names off the top of my head.
It's Christine and
so Christine Bloomsma.
Yes, and oh my goodness, give me a second.
Is it Faye Cormier?
I think Faye is not up. I think she's not running for re-election, or she's not returning. So there were 2 that are up for re-election, which was Lindsay. So Lindsay is running for her spot again. She's on her 2 years. There was another member who's running on the 2 years, but that is not going to run for re-election. And then someone who is has decided to phase away. So that's why there's the 3 spots. And then the 2 spots that are not up for re-election were Christine, and I can't believe I'm having a brain bubble. Ralph. It is Ralph. Yes.
All right. And that information, I believe I've looked at it on the library website. It's a little hard to determine like who's staying, who's going, and who's running, who's rerunning on there. But the names are all up there, so you'll be able to see that there. All right. So with that, I'd like to just wrap up. Huge thank you to our library trustee candidates for being here. I know it's a little nerve-wracking to come and do a forum like this. So thank you so much for putting in the work in advance of this meeting, as well as for being here. And of course, thank you so much to our wonderful Wells Branch DEMS members for the club for hosting, and to all of the community members who showed up to get informed about these really important local races. So we're hoping